Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
What's happening, everybody? I want to welcome you back to another episode of the Account for Your Life podcast. Today on the podcast, here's where we're continuing the topic of thinking abundantly. And so today we're going to be talking about being generous and being full of generosity. I was, reading the word and just I saw some things jump out at me. I don't know if it was because I've been thinking abundantly, but man, some things jump out at me. And let's talk about them and let's look at how we can think abundantly and to really, use this thing called generosity along with abundance. So I was reading in Proverbs this morning. And, it's interesting because when you set your intention on something, if you're going to be abundant, you're going to have to set your intention on it. And when I say that, what I'm saying is that you have to, because this is what I'm doing. Like I'm literally sleeping. I'm sleeping and I can feel my mind racing for abundance. I'm sleeping and I can feel it. I'm waking up. I'm like, and all I can think about are the things and all the ideas of being abundant. Conversations that I had yesterday, conversations that I had maybe the week before, things that I wrote down that's leading me there. So when it comes to being abundant, then we've got to really get a hold of our intention. Like that's the first thing, because the intention of the abundance is like it's so intertwined with everything that we see, with everything that we do, with everything that we experience and think. Because guys, think about this. If you wanted to do something amazing in your life, then that means that if we're not doing it, more than likely we have not set our full intention on making it happen. I'm telling you, like when I think about some things that I need to get done, I'm like, well, I didn't have my full intention set. So let's go to the word real quick. The word always gives us a setup. So it's not just me talking about it. It's not just me talking about it. Let's go to the word and see what the word has to say today about abundance. All right, let's do it. We are in Proverbs 11. Let me make this bigger here. All right, you see it right there. Proverbs 11, verse 24, 25, and 26. And it says this. We're reading from the NIV, just because some words, I just want to make sure these kind of help me to explain a little bit better. One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. This is a really big one, because we're talking about being generous. If we're talking about being abundant, being generous is going to be something that we have to really understand. Because yesterday we talked about, when God was in the garden with Adam and Eve, he told Adam, he says, look, you are free. You are free to eat of every tree of the garden. And yesterday we established that freely and in every are abundant words. Here it is. One person gives freely, yet gains everything, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly and comes to poverty. Let's keep going. A generous person will prosper. There it is again. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. So when we're generous, guys, generous is interesting, because the first thing you probably think of when you think of being generous is you probably think of money more than, that's not what I wanted to do. You probably think of money, and yes, that's money, but it's also time. It's also something else that we are doing and giving up. Listen, giving of your ideas, giving of the fact that I'm doing this podcast and this ain't for me technically. But at the end of the day, God's telling me to live this way. He says, look, you got to do the Account for Life podcast because you have to live your life a certain way. And I'm going to put you out there so that when, if you're not living your life, it's not going to feel right doing it. And I'm going to tell you, man, that's been a challenge there. So let's keep reading though. Verse 26. I love verse 26 because verse 26, this is about selling. People curse the one who hoards the grain, but they pray God's blessing on the one who is willing to sell. Abundance is to sell what you have for gain. Ooh, most of the time, man, we go to church, man, ain't nobody talking about selling nothing. No, we got to give everything away. Oh, we should just give it all away. No, there should be things that we have to sell. We have to sell different things. Look, Joseph, in the story of Joseph, let's stop sharing. In the story of Joseph, now think about the story of Joseph. Stop there. Story of Joseph. Joseph, when they filled up the barns, they started selling the stuff. People had to come buy it. They did not give the stuff away to people. No, not at all. They did not do that. People had to buy it. So look, if you have something of value, it is your duty to sell it. That's to think abundantly. See, being generous is not just giving. Being generous is to sell, and that's what that scripture was saying. So when I looked at this text today, I looked at the text. And, it's Proverbs. There's nothing like a good Proverbs every morning. I looked at the text and I says, man, how many of us are just lacking in abundance? We're lacking. Why? I discovered something. Here's what I discovered. I discovered in order to actually live in abundance, you actually have to go stay in your mind where the abundance is. Yeah, I know that. Some people have a hard time. Some people have a hard time with mindset training. Some people have a hard time because I just want to do it. Okay, you can do it if you want. But if you're not in the same mind, I was reading a book recently by one of my mentors, and in the book he talks about this particular thing. He talks about, you can go and do something, right? But when you do something, you actually have to be in the same mindset as the person who knows how to do it. You have to be in the same posture in the person who knows how to do it. You have to have the same beliefs as the person who knows how to do it. And so when you think about abundance, the first thing you have to do is say, okay, what is abundance? What is abundance? And abundance, and I'm sorry, not what is abundance. Yeah, what is abundance? What is abundance? I'm gonna go and pull this up. What is abundance? It's a large quantity of something. It's to have it's just stuff everywhere. Think about abundance. There's abundance of air. There's abundance of water. There's an abundance of all the natural resources, sunlight. There's an abundance of what stars and sky. There's an abundance of of ground and grass. There's an abundance of property. There's an abundance of almost every natural resource on this planet. But yet we've been told that there's a lack. Things like global warming and things of that nature. That's a whole nother topic. Look it up. But when we're generous, when we realize that there's more where it came from, think about your money. Think about your money, right? A lot of times, the reason why some of us won't give is because, man, if I give, then I won't have anything. One of my mentors said this. He says, look, when you're down to your last, you should then go look for somebody to give something to, because it's nothing like giving away your last. It's nothing like giving away your last. It's nothing like being down to your last, but knowing that you don't have to worry about what's coming next. Generosity is interesting because in generosity, being generous, generosity, the quality of being kind and generous, the ability or fact to be plentiful. Do you feel plentiful today? It's Saturday morning. Man, we had an amazing week. It's the seventh day, the day God rested on the seventh day because he had finished all his work. And God was so generous to give this whole realm to us. He took his whole creation and said, you know what? I'm going to just give that to my kids. Here, it's yours. Have dominion. It's yours. It's yours, which means that God was so generous at the very beginning of time. All we have to do when we want to model something, model what already happened that was good. Let's go back and model the generosity of God. What did he do? He thought ahead of time. He said, and I don't know this, like, because I'm not in God's head. I'm not in, like, I don't know what God was thinking when he created the world, but let's just use our own minds. God, in his thoughts, he created the world. And then when he knew what it was, and he knew he had somebody to give it to, then he came back and he created it. So to think abundantly is to think all the way to where it is that the success happened. Okay, just imagine. Imagine you were looking for another client, right? You need another client. You need another job. Maybe you're looking to lose some weight. Maybe you're looking to get another car. I know somebody looking for a car. You're looking for another car. You're looking for a house. Go all the way to where you have it already. In your mind. Go there. Go all the way there and stay there. Don't even come back home. There's no reason to come back home. Meaning, there's no reason to come back to the place where you don't have it. I'm not saying you won't be there, but there's no reason in your mind to even pay any attention to it. So you got to get all the way there, and then you got to say, well, man, how can I be more generous there? Because it's no fun. It's no fun having stuff and nobody else has anything. It's no fun having stuff. Like I was, in my thinking this morning, just thinking about, man, how can I really help other people? I'm being generous. I'm thinking about people even before, like that has nothing to do with me. I'm just thinking about the people and what I can do for them. To be abundant is to be generous. It's to think ahead of time. Go to the place where you already have it. Spend your time there. Spend all your time there. I'm talking about like I was driving a new car this morning. I was sitting in the passenger seat of a new car this morning. And I'm telling you about that because that's something that, is going to happen. Who's driving it? I'm sitting in the car, going places, filling on the seats. Beautiful. But you know what? It'd be no fun if all I had was things. I got to be generous. I got to be generous with my time. I got to be generous with my thinking. I have to be generous with my money. I have to be generous with how I do things. I just have to be generous. What about you? Would you like to take this abundance? Just imagine if we can take our abundance and we can transplant it into other people. I'm trying it. I'm testing it. Where I take the abundance that I have and I help other people to have the same abundance with me, so that what happens is where 2 or 3 are gathered. Look, the threefold cord cannot be broken. That's in Ecclesiastes. It can't be broken. So if you and I and them and they all bound our whole lives, our arms, our hands, our feet, like we just come together, there'll be no more problems in the world. We can get rid of them. And then we can just go from city to city, state to state, country to country, teaching, showing, being that person. See, because it's nothing like just talking it. It's nothing like me coming to this podcast and I'm still working on it. But not this year. This year is a full manifestation of everything that I've spoken about over the past 6 years. This year is. Watch it. Don't miss it. Because I'm coming here and I'm freely giving exactly what God's given me. So use it for yourself. Guys, I appreciate you for joining me for this episode of the I AFYL Podcast. To think abundantly, is to be generous. So give. God bless you, and I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Thanks for joining us, listening friends. We are so glad you invested this time with us. Always remember, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.